two gray goatees, and a whistle. I got a very special guest joining me today. He is Will Person, a former U.S. bobsled team member, and he has reached out, and we get to have a conversation and learn about his story and kind of get his message about what he's about and what he's got going on in his life. I once again, Will, I appreciate you coming on the show. So let's kind of get started off with just something simple. Yeah, let's just talk about kind of at the beginning, like what sports did you participate growing up? So when did you start getting into sports at what age, and what were some of the things you kind of got into?
My sport mainly, I was a track and field guy. Like I love track and field. That was my thing. Anything with running fast, running around in that circle, man, I don't know, something about it. It just changed my life. Like
Nice.
I guess I had my first race. This is the funny part. My first race, my dad took me to this track meet. Like we didn't train, we didn't do anything. It was just like we're going to this track meet today. And I still remember this race. I was probably about 5 or 6 because I remember the age group was 8 and under. So I was the youngest. So when we're at the starting line, and I mean, the runner says, "Take your mark." And I'm looking around, I'm like looking at butterflies and stuff at I'm just, and they said, "Get set." And when they shot the gun, everybody took off running except me. Like I was just still standing there. I didn't, I said, "Oh, they're running." So then I started running, and I remember I caught everybody except one guy. Man, my dad was like, "Oh, this is gonna be my track star." So he started waking me up early in the morning, or it's the weekend, and he's like, "Okay, I want you to go outside and run around the block in the snow." And I was like, "What?" You know, it took all the fun. There was no fun left. I didn't want anything to do with track after that for a while, and so I stopped running from the age of 6. And when I was 11 years old, I wanted to run again, and I used to walk about 5 miles to practice, I believe. Practice with the team,
Oh,
and then it'll be dark, and then I'll walk home. But that's how much I loved it. That's how much I loved it. And after that, I ran until I was 30. Well, I competed from the time I was 11 until I was 37 when I won my last USA National Championship. But that was in the sport of bobsledding when I was doing that sport.
okay.
But from 11
Nice.
to 37, I was out there.
You're out there. Cool.
Yeah.
So it sounds like your dad, was he pretty instrumental at a young age that kind of got you into sports? Was there other people that kind of influenced you a little bit to kind of get into sports and kind of do the track thing and other sports, or was it kind of more self-driven, like, hey, I just want to do this?
Well, I had a big brother. He was 3 years older than me. Before we move on, can you hear that little clicking in the noise clicking? Can you hear that at all?
That might be me rubbing the thing. I'll try to make sure I'm not moving so much. I think
No,
I
no,
might be bouncing the mic a
I
little bit.
believe it's my headphones, and I was gonna pop them off if it is. I'm not exactly because I heard it before, and I was doing a video. I was walking around just doing something for the
Well,
courts
now I
one
hear it.
day.
Okay, yeah, I did hear a click on there. So
I'm gonna
yeah,
see if I can pop these
yeah.
off and see if it doesn't mess with our sound real quick. I'd hate to mess up
Okay,
your
go
whole
ahead.
podcast.
No, that's fine.
Okay, can you hear me at all?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah,
Okay, I can hear
yeah,
you
I can
too.
hear you.
Okay, as long as you got
I'm
good
still waiting for
sound,
the.
this will probably be better than using.
Yep.
Man, these are really nice headphones too. Sheesh.
Okay. Oh,
Okay.
sometimes things happen. So yeah, as long as you can hear and everything, we should be good. So
Okay.
okay, so you're
Where were
talking
we at?
about
I
your
forgot
brother,
where we.
and
Yeah.
oh, so yeah, we were
Yeah.
kind of talking about your brother and how he, he was older brother, and kind of how did he influence you a little bit, or what involved you in sports.
Yeah. I had my brother. He was 3 years older than me. But at that time, he was playing like little league, like JFL football, and I was too young, so I didn't really get to participate. If I did go, I had just had the uniform on, but I didn't really, I was like that bench warmer to a bench warmer to a bench warmer. I wasn't going to get to play at all. Yeah, so he influenced me. I always wanted to be like my big brother. Seemed like all the little girls was in love with him all the time. Man, I wanted something to do with that, but I was that track guy, but I'm glad I stayed in my lane. I love how my journey. I just love the journey I took. It was just different, unique, and just I couldn't have planned it out any differently. It's just a weird background. I had a weird background.
Hey, everybody's got their own path, and so early experiences in youth sports, the competitive mindset, because obviously getting at the level that you're at, especially competing at, going into something that's pretty unique over here, doing something like bobsledding, that competitive mindset, how do you, how did that shape you in your younger years to where you got to where you're competing at a high level in something like bobsledding?
Well, for me, I think like track and field is kind of one of those sports. It's like it's almost like you're a loner. You're kind of a loner because it's like it's not a full team sport. At the end of the day, it is because you get points and then you can win a team trophy. But really, like it's really you and against that clock. And I did a lot of long jumping, so it was me against that tape measure. And I didn't have to worry about, okay, is my team prepared today? Or are they gonna do the right plays today and make the right plays to get us to win? No, I could do this all by myself. And that's kind of the route that I took. I was one of those kind of loner kids. It's hard to get your friends to come out and run track. You can get your friends to come play football. You can get them to come play basketball. But nobody really wants to go out and just run around. Track is that one sport where, like, I've even coached people from little league football kids and all the way to high school up to I had some NFL clients as well. But that track is the one sport that'll break most athletes. You have a lot of football players and basketball players that come to train with us, and they usually quit. They usually quit because it's just they'll be like, "What do you mean I got to run 400s?" Like, this like, no, we
Right.
don't want to do it. Yeah, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm rambling a
So
little bit,
yeah,
man,
my
but I
wife,
just yeah,
yeah. So like my wife, she was a track person. That's what she did. I mean, at her school, she was on the 4x1, the 4x4, and they had
man,
a school record and stuff like that. So she's a track person. In fact, she's coaching middle school track again. And, she, it's like, oh, you want to run the 400. Okay. You're going to run the 400 plus, more than that. And it's, trying to get that mindset. And it is an individual sport. And I've always told kids that I've coached, I'm like, because I usually coach football or softball and a little basketball, but I've always told kids, try to play one individual sport where it's just about you, where all you're competing against is that clock, like you were talking about. And I said, I always try to encourage them, do track because they teach you how to run. And, or I say, do wrestling. Wrestling's another individual sport. I say, hey, go out and do wrestling because that's a very disciplined type sport. So, I've always tried to encourage, kids to go do that if they love like something like football or basketball. They love the team sport, but try to pick a one individual sport where it's just about you competing. And so, yeah, I totally agree with that mindset. And you get that running bug, I guess, where you love that running high and stuff like that. And I
yeah,
track people or just anybody, especially long distance runners, man. They're a certain breed. The people that run cross country that I see around here, that are doing cross country and stuff like that, man. They're unique.
yeah. So like even for me, like in my off season, I always did cross country workouts. Like that's just the one thing you have to do. Like if you don't do it, you're not going to prepare your base right. If you don't get that foundation set, then when the track season kick in, you're going to be sorry. You just wasted pretty much your year because you missed all the stuff that's going to help those lungs burn long for you.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, I totally
definitely.
agree.
And then also, if you look at the GPAs of most sports, like I remember being in college and track team always had the highest. No, that's not true. It was those soccer guys, man. Not soccer,
Soccer.
golf. Golf was number one.
Golf.
Track was always number
Okay.
two. Yeah. But the golf team was always smaller,
Yeah.
but on the average, they usually had the higher GPA.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the golf
So
guys,
yeah,
man.
and yeah, I could probably say that. I'm at, like right now I where I teach is a very small school, so we don't have all the opportunities. We do have track and field. That's pretty common throughout. That's always there. Football's there, basketball's there, and soccer. But then all the other sports, the bigger your schools are, the more opportunities you got. So, but yeah, yeah. When it comes to education, yeah, I've noticed that. And yeah, yeah, it's an interesting take on the sports. I'll have to say, tell the kids, hey, the smartest kids are the track kids. So,
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Minus the
so let's
golf,
talk
man, but the
about
golf
how,
guys usually get.
yeah, yeah. And believe it or not, actually, in the school our size, because there's like 100 kids total from 9 to 12th grade. We're very small. Yeah, but we even got a golf team. So, which is amazing. I was like, we got golf here. So we do have a bunch of different golf courses in the Magic Valley we live at, and so golf's even in the smaller towns. There's opportunity for kids to play golf, which I was like, oh, this is crazy. So they might only have one or two kids on the team, but we got a golf team.
That's the one sport I wish I had picked up. Like hands down, I wish I definitely wouldn't be sitting here right now if that's the sport I had chosen.
Yeah. So let's talk
Yeah,
about how you got into bobsledding. Because the experience I got with bobsledding is every 4 years during the Olympics, it happens. And when I was a kid growing up, I was like, this is kind of cool because you're looking at it's like they get to go sledding. That's kind of how I looked at it. I didn't understand but I'm like, oh wow, they get in a sled and they go down a hill. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then growing up, obviously, the Cool Runnings movie came out back in the,
yeah,
talking about Jamaican team. So I was just like, oh, that's pretty cool. And it had a good story. And I was like, oh, that's neat. And then, but you know, outside of every 4 years, it's like bobsledding's not, it's not really popular in the US, but we compete and we've had some pretty decent teams in the past. So,
yeah,
what got you into that sport? How did go from track and field, which it makes sense because, runners, especially track, sprinters probably looks a little bit more natural because they probably want that to get that. They seems like that's where they pull from a lot. So, how did you
yeah.
get introduced to the bobsledding?
Well, for me, I had a lot of stuff on my plate at the time. One thing that we didn't discuss. Do you ever see the movie Jerry Maguire, Any Given Sunday? It was a
I've seen
football
those.
movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I worked with those guys doing the football plays in that movie. I was the guy who they loved how I run. I was like a 4.23 40 guys. Um, they just loved watching me run, and I put the uniform on me, and I made them look like professional football players. So I did
Oh,
Jerry
okay.
Maguire. I worked on Any Given Sunday. And when I got the set of Any Given Sunday, I realized like I don't want to really do this stuff anymore. It just didn't feel really right natural for me to be there. And those sports they began to get violent, and even though I didn't have to take any of those hits like that, I just really didn't want to continue that. So my background is really diverse. Like I was in Hollywood before I made my first national team, and but when it came to how I got on the team itself, I had like this 5 movie deal thing on the table, and I didn't know really didn't want to do any more movies. My track career was about at the end, and I said, okay, let me figure something out. And so what happened is the Salt Lake City had the Olympics coming around, and I was one of the fastest people in the state at the time. So they recruited me to come out for this tryout. So I started thinking about it, and I remember this commercial they used to run when I was a kid, The Wide World of Sports, and they showed this bobsled crash all the time. And I was like, oh. So they called me a few times that week, and I was like, no, I don't want to. But I said, well, maybe if I can go, and it's being televised by this TV show called Go for the Gold. It was an NBC TV show. And I said, well, maybe I'll pick up a sponsor or something for my last year of track or so. I said, okay, why not? So I went out for this tryout, right? And so what they did, when I got to this place, there was like a room. It was maybe like 60 people. They had this treadmill. And then they take the treadmill and they put it like on the highest elevation. And you stand there, you just hold these rails like you hold a bobsled. And they turn it to 10 miles an hour. And it's computerized. So the quicker it gets to 10 miles an hour, that means the faster I'm running, the more pressure I'm applying, the quicker it gets to 10 miles an hour. So I saw these first like 30, 40 people go. And so when it was my turn, I get up there, these NBC hot lights are on me, and I take off running. And when I finished, this bobsled driver was there. He come put his arm around me, and he said, "Hey, if I offer you $50,000 for the next 3 months, would you race on my team?" And so at that time, I owned a youth treatment facility for adolescents at the time. It was actually down by Brigham Young University at the time. And so when he offered me 50 grand, I gave him the educated answer. I was like, I'm a businessman. Like, if it's a fair price, yeah. If not, we can renegotiate later. But in the back of my head, I'm thinking 50 grand for 3 months. I'm like, I'm gonna go knock this out
That's
real
pretty
quick.
good money.
I can use that money. So the first day we get to the bobsled track to push, that recording was on a Wednesday. I went to the bobsled track on the Sunday. And as I'm pulling up to the bobsled track, we're on the back of this truck. It takes you to the top of the mountain. So it's about to be my first time going down this hill, right? One of my old teammates from college, Billy Schiffenhauer, sees me. He's like, "Hey, man, I was looking for you." He's like, "I've been trying to call you. I want you to come race on our team." So then my new driver, he panics. He said, "Hey, pull me to the side. Don't leave me, man. Just stick it out with me. I'll get you some more money." Now, I guess you might know where this is going already. There was no money. There was never any money in the sport. And by the time I kind of
Right.
figured it out, man, I was kind of out there sliding down this hill and kind of enjoying it. And it was different. And I think I was on the national team within a year and a half or so. So it happened really, really, really fast. And so that's kind of how I got it. But they tricked me, just like everybody else get tricked. You go out there, you
Yeah.
think, you think you know everything that's going on, but you really don't. So
Right.
that's kind of how it happened. But I loved it. I loved my time out there.
Yeah. So going to that, so the high school, I'm assuming, did you do college track for a while? Did you compete in college before you went
Yeah,
to bobsledding? And
yeah, I
where'd
did.
you go to school at? Where were you going to school at?
My last school I went to was Weber State University in Utah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No Weaver. Yep. This is south of us. So yeah. So yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Oh, you up
I
in, were
actually,
you up in Idaho?
I'm in Idaho. Yeah. So I'm in Idaho. Yeah.
Pocatello
So
or Moscow?
when you're bringing up Utah, I'm like, okay, yeah, BYU, know where that's at, know where Weaver's at, know where Utah State's at. So yeah, these schools that are up
Yeah.
there, or in that area. So yeah, actually, one of my former uh, 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 players in high school and stuff like that, and we're good friends of the family. His last year of college football before he ended up playing in the indoor football league, he was the center for Weber State back here
Well,
a couple years ago. So yeah, I've heard of Weber. So yeah, so that's cool. So closer
are you
connection,
up in are you in Pocatello or Moscow or
So I'm actually further. So I'm in a town called Gooding, Idaho. We're about half hour from Twin Falls.
Twin
So
Falls? Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
So yeah, we're about a half hour drive. So we're kind of like I'm a half hour from Twin Falls and about an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes from Boise. So
Okay.
kind of right in there. So yeah, it's about 3,500 people here. So yeah, it's a smaller town. And I'm from Oregon, so I'm a transplant. So when I graduated college, my first job I got when I got my teaching degree was here in Idaho because my in-laws had moved here like a year before that. And my daughter at the time, she was just finishing fifth grade. And if I couldn't get a job where she would be around people, because I know with little kids, it's hard to move. I was like, well,
Yeah.
I want to move where at least there's family. So the transition would be so hard on her. So the spring before I graduated, came up here and my in-laws, he basically took me and my wife and on my daughter on a drive through the Magic Valley and we checked out all the towns around Twin Falls and Goodings didn't smell like a cow's ass so much. So it didn't smell as bad because there's a lot of dairies around here. So
Yeah.
and so I was like, well, it doesn't smell very bad here. So I checked around the area and checked the town, and it's like there was a couple teaching positions open. So I was able to land one of them. So that's how I ended up in Idaho.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
If you go back in the old records, I was the, let me see, 93 Big Sky long jump champion.
nice.
That's back
Okay.
when we had Boise State in the group. We had Boise State, Pocatello, and we had the other Idaho up in
Idaho State.
Vandal. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good old
So
days,
yeah, we got
man.
a couple. Yeah, I got a couple girls I taught their sisters and they did high jump at one just finished graduating high jump at Idaho State and the other one's she still has I think one more year at Idaho State and she or not high jump, I'm sorry, pole vault. She did pole vault. They both did pole vault. So and they do the track thing. So that they do the field events. So
Wow.
yeah, and then
Small world, man.
so yeah,
Small world.
yeah, small
Yeah.
worlds. That's cool. Yeah, I was like, man, you got connections to Utah. Okay. So yeah, right on. So are you living in, where are you currently living at right now? Like in California
I'm in
where's
Los Angeles.
you're in Los
Los
Angeles area?
Angeles right
Okay.
now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's kind of move, we'll kind of move on here. Some of the other questions. So the bobsledding journey, that's pretty cool. To be able to have that opportunity like that, it seems like that would, you get to compete and stuff like that. So can you describe what it's like doing something like that, especially, the first time because what you reach over 90 plus miles an hour going down a track. What's that experience like? Is there adrenaline rush? Like, was it fear at first and then turn into adrenaline? What's that feeling like?
Well, let me see. Pick the world's scariest roller coaster, and then you multiply that by like 50. Yeah, that's kind of that's the best way to explain it. Because, like, for me, like, I never rode roller coasters. I was afraid of those things. And so I really didn't want to do the bobsled. Like, I was really fearful, like, when it came to that. But I'll be honest, like, every time, like, see, we race every 7 days, we go to a new country to get on a new track for free racing World Cup. And so just imagine you finally get comfortable on this track. Your driver's getting you down the track safe. Now that week is over. Now you got to go to this next track this driver's never been on. So it's a highly good chance you're going to get bumped around and beat up pretty good. If not, concussed and crash. And then you got to repeat that every 7 days. It's intense. It's very intense. So one of the most important things you can do is try to get with a driver who has that experience of going down those tracks and who's going to find you that fast line so you can have a chance of winning. But you also want to get down that track safe where you're not, going down and getting concussed every day. That's the number one thing. You don't want that.
Right.
Yeah, but
And
it's
so
yeah, it's intense. It's very intense.
I can imagine. And so because I look at that and I'm like, it looks like it'd be a lot of fun. And then, like quoting from Cool Runnings, John Candy's character says, in bobsledding, you don't break bones, you shatter them. And so I'm just like,
Yeah,
because you're going at such a high rate of speed. I'm like, holy crap! And then the amount of G's force you guys are pulling, like what 5+ G's probably on some corners. So it's nuts.
yeah. Well, I found out that's not exactly true. I don't think that they were being honest with us about that 5Gs, but and I'll tell you why.
Okay,
We do these things called forerunning. It's test runs. So, like
okay,
on some special days, we'll have VIPs come to the track, and we'll let them go down the track first, and we call it forerunning, which means they're testing the timing eyes. So they do us a service, we do them a service. So this one time we took down these guys. They were the fighter pilots. Now, we got the best fighter pilots in the world down here in America. Like they're the best of the best. A lot of countries come here to train. They come here to train because our equipment, our just the professionalism of the whole our military aviation is a whole nother level. And so on this one particular day, we took down some fighter pilots. And this really shocked me. But when we got to the end of that track, those fighter pilots were all shattered up and they were shook up and just rattled. And that didn't make sense to me. I was like, how could they? Like, these are the baddest men on the planet. Like, how could they be? I just took 6 runs that day and they took one.
right.
And
So
so when
you're saying that the G's are probably a little bit more? Is that what you're kind of getting at?
well,
Possibly
there's an
that's
article.
probably might be a little more than that. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's an article that came out. It's called Sledhead. It's written by the New York Times. And that article, they had some people, they tested the G's that were being pushed out on one of the tracks in Canada. I think like for me, this is the crazy part. When I kind of saw what the symptoms were doing to us, and this is years after I left the sport, but I was trying to figure out, I said, we have to be pulling more than 5Gs because I remember those fighter pilots. So I was on the internet. I was searching at high and low, trying to find somebody who can actually compute the math and go and test these tracks. And this one guy told me, he said, you guys pull 4.5 Gs. I was like, there's no way in the world we can pull 84.5 Gs. That's too high. Like, that would make sense why we all having brain issues right now. I said, where'd you get that information from? He said, it's in the article Sledhead. I read that article more than 30 times, and it's the article that kind of helped diagnose me. And so I went back to read that article after I read it for 30 times already. And it was like I was reading it for the first time. And it was right there in that article, 84.5 Gs. So we're not pulling just
So
5 Gs.
it's more than 5. And that was just what I could find. And I do know that so we'll go ahead and get into the we'll start talking about CTE and stuff like that and with sledhead. And I did see that term when I was looking up there talk about sledhead. and how riders, when they get down with there's this underlining concussion thing, that's happening with them. Concussion at any level, whether it's a direct hard impact that you see in football or hockey or soccer,
Yeah.
there's this subtle stuff. And then I was looking up the military with the fighter pilots, because I know that was something that was kind of brought up too, about what they're going through with military forces too.
Did you find the article that was written? It came out in December.
So I just I think I was gonna get on it, but it was like one of those I had to pay thing. I was like, "No, I can't do this." So I was like, "All right, let me see what I can get from what I could, find." But I do remember that the New York there was a New York Post article. There's supposedly that the Navy is looking into now the G-force issues with brains. They got to call it Operation, I think it's Odin Eye or something like that. They're starting to look into this as well, I guess, at least on the Navy side. Project Odin Eye is what they call it. The Navy's launching this study to look at pilots in F-18s
Yeah.
and looking at Top Gun instructors, talking about the extreme G forces there and the neurological changes that are happening based off this. So yeah,
They have
going
the same symptoms as us. They're identical.
Yeah,
And
and so
yeah,
that's crazy. So let's go ahead and we'll get into the CTE now. So let's go ahead. So uh, one of the reasons why you're on here is, and one of the things you got going on is you're trying to bring awareness to CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. I think I said that right.
I'm
So
glad you
it's
because I still can't say it. So right, yeah.
I had to go on and like YouTube it. I'm like, I have to try to pronounce this right. I want to seem like I know what I'm talking about. So basically, for anybody else out there, this is kind of the same stuff that the NFL went through with the impact that was happening in sports with CTE. And from the NFL standpoint, what was going on, because when I started coaching back in the 90s and how we taught tackling has totally changed. So now, and a lot of that has to do with the studies on CTE and the technology that has gone into the new helmets and stuff like that to try to help mitigate some of the damage from CTE, and this whole shift that the NFL promoted about, because of what they were finding, or at least they had to go through the legal services and to kind of get this out to bring awareness of this. So this is kind of the same thing, except you know I think this, for bobsledding or any other sport or profession like fighter pilots, concussions don't have to be like a sudden violent impact. It can be very subtle. And so like Sledhead, it seems like they are now looking at this subconcussive impacts and vibrations, because
Yeah.
you could, obviously talk about you're talking about the jarring and everything else that comes with it, and the amount of G's you're pushing on your body and stuff like that. And, your blood flow is leaving your head and all this stuff when all that stuff's happening. So let's go ahead. We
Yeah.
can talk about CTE, what you got going on, your programs and stuff like that. What you got going, what's going on with. If you want to talk about the litigation part of it, we can do that too. So I'll let you have the floor and let you kind of talk about. You pick out where
Well,
you want to start,
the
and
litig
let's get
the
going on this.
okay, awesome. Well, the litigation part is pretty much over with. I don't even know how to put this, but there's an offer on the table. I've rejected it numerous times. I'm the lead plaintiff, so only I'm supposed to be able to reject the offers or accept them. But my law team decided that it was a good idea. They believe it's a great offer. And so they wanted to send it to the judge against my wishes. And I was like, this offer doesn't help anybody. And I asked them, I was like, guys, does the offer even help me? I'm your lead client. Like, they was like, well, no, it doesn't. I said, well, I talked to numerous athletes. It won't help them either. For example, the offer is only, imagine, you said you have a daughter, right? Okay. So imagine your daughter, you see her, she's sick. She fell down, she broke her leg or something happened to her. And you had a choice to take her. You're going to take her or you're going to take her to a hospital who's not going to help her, or you're going to take her to a doctor who's going to treat her, you know? And most people say, well, I'm going to take my child somewhere where they're going to get help. The offer that's on the table now is they only want to evaluate the athletes. They don't want to treat us. They don't want to give us any medical stuff or any funding so we can find our own medical stuff.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what this entailed. So Let's talk about how, so people who don't know what's going on with what you got going on, let's talk about your GoFundMe a little bit. So let's talk about why you went to why you went up the bat for people for CTE in something like bobsledding and I'm assuming luge and skeleton. Does that kind of fall in that same
Yeah, bobsledder.
spectrum? Okay. Yeah. So if you want to explain a little bit, kind of the backstory about what was going on, what experiences that you felt, what got you to say, dude, we need to do something. What are some of the things that you went through, some of the things you thought with the CTE?
Okay. Well, for me, suicides. Some of my teammates started. There was some suicides that happened. Like every time it happened that I knew about, it was kind of like swept under the rug. We didn't discuss it very much. But then there was two high-profile athletes that actually committed suicide. Actually, my driver, Stephen Holcomb, who was my driver in the 2004 championships, he took his life at the Olympic Training Center. And then one of my teammates, Pavle Jovanovic, he called me one day, man, and like I always say, like, there's so many little cliques in the sport of bobsledding. And so me and him, we weren't the best of friends during that time period, you know. But after the sport, when he knew that I was in Hollywood, he wanted to be a writer. Yeah, hey, Will's over there in Hollywood. Let me call him and talk about Hollywood. So he would call me and I would help him tweak concepts for scripts. And one of his, you know what, and this is the crazy part. This happened pre-COVID. And it's only been about a week that I actually kind of connected the dots on what was going on. Like one of the first few times he called me, he was giving me these concepts. And I thought it was creative writing. But right now that I'm thinking back, it wasn't creative writing. His mind had started to slip. So he was saying he had these weird concepts that they weren't him. They were just, he was, when he passed, he was in stage 4 of CTE, let's put it that way. And so like he was telling me these bizarre stories. I was like, yeah, and then you can do this with it and you can, and we just went down a rabbit hole quite a few times. But the very last time he called me, he was speaking gibberish. He was like, I don't mean to make fun of him or anything, but he was like, and I was like, what? And he went, and he got so frustrated, man. He hung up the phone. Let me give you one little back part of my backstory. When I started bobsledding, I had owned a youth treatment facility at the time down in Provo, Utah. And so my background was mental health. That's my thing. It's my passion. And so I knew he needed help. And I told myself every day, I got to help my friend. I've got to help him. And the truth is, I didn't do anything, man. And so eventually I found out, I don't know if it was on the news or somebody called me, maybe it was both, that Pablo went to his family's factory and then he hung himself there. Kind of when that happened, it crushed me. Like I felt guilty. I felt responsible. I felt like I had a part in there that I should have done something. And I didn't do nothing. I didn't do anything. I just, and so when they checked his brain, he was in stage 4 of CTE. They said he was way past like where Junior Seau was and all those other guys. And that's why he couldn't talk anymore. And that's why he was having all the medical issues that he was having. And I just kind of like, for me, I was so embarrassed. And I just didn't forgive myself for a long time until I started really connecting the dots. And then is where it gets interesting. When me and Pablo had that last conversation, I was struggling so bad. Like I couldn't help him because I needed help. My mattress that I normally, it's in my bedroom, I took it off my bed and I threw it in my living room on the floor because I was literally crawling around my apartment on some days. Like I couldn't, I was struggling to get up to get to the restroom. I definitely was struggling to get to the kitchen. So I was crawling, So I put that mattress in that living room and here I am worried about my friend Pavle. And I'm not even looking at my own stuff because I didn't know what I was dealing with was related to sliding. I thought I was becoming diabetic because for that past, until that time, it was about a 10-year period. Every day when I woke up, I had a little daily planner on my little nightstand. And so when I wake up, I have to look at it and I'll have to figure out if it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or whatever. And then once I figure out what day it is, I have to figure out what month that we're in. I always assumed it was January or August. I was stuck in this loop. So I'm always thinking it's the same day all the time. And for some reason I thought it was diabetes because I felt like I couldn't get out of the bed. I didn't have any energy. So every night before I went to bed, I would get a thermos of coffee and put it on my nightstand or a bottle of Coca-Cola, right? And them two things I never drank in my life. I don't like coffee and I don't like soda. I was a a world-class athlete. So my body was my temple. And so for me, I just went down that rabbit hole and I struggled there and I struggled. And I'm sad because it took for Pablo to kill himself for me to quite understand what I was dealing with. I just thought that I got diabetes, I need some insulin, and eventually I'm gonna be okay. And so I'll go see the doctors every year. They was like, no, they don't have diabetes. They give you all this stuff to drink and they check in your blood, but they never ever checked my brain. And that's what they should have been checking because I was going down that track. Like I did between 1 to 6, sometimes even 7 rides per day for probably 4 days a week, 5 to 6 months of the year, and then for 9 years. So I literally probably have hundreds of rides down those tracks. And yeah, I just didn't know what was going on. And it took for, like I said, Pablo to take his life. And then for Mr. That guy who wrote that article, Sledhead. Like, this is the crazy part. I literally read Sledhead and I was like, well, thank you, God. I missed all these symptoms. And, but my family, my girlfriend, she saw the article. I sent it to her. She circled some stuff and sent it back to me. And when I looked at it, she was right. Yeah, I was in big trouble, and I'm still in a little bit of trouble. It's not over. Somebody, likely hero, came along. I'm sure you're familiar with Joe Namath, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, he put out these articles that he used hyperbaric oxygen to reverse his CTE symptoms, and I was like, "What? No way!" Because if you look up CTE and all the stuff that people are going through, it looked like it's hopeless. Like it's like, this guy killed
Right.
his girlfriend, he killed his wife, he killed himself. It's like, and there's a lot of people doing that. And I'm thinking, like, what is this stuff? So I was kind of like, when I filed the lawsuit, like, if you ever talk to my lawyers, I told them, I was like, don't worry about me. I said, take care of my fellas, make sure that they're good. Because I didn't think I'd be alive to see the end of the case because I was lost in my own neighborhood. I was cloudy. I couldn't count anymore. I was struggling with reading and writing until I tried that chamber, and that chamber was what kind of shifted things. And the crazy part is, like, most people, it's hard for most people to believe, but I went down and tried it for the first time. I was in that chamber for one little stinky hour, 1 hour. And when I got out of that chamber, I could see colors and brightness. And I was like, whoa, I didn't recognize this place anymore. I barely recognized it. And matter of fact, these same glasses are tinted because like, I'm sensitive to smells, sounds, and bright lights. And since I
Okay.
got to talk to you today, we're on camera. I got the thing up here, so I gotta, put. So
Put
all
the
my
glasses
all my
on.
Glasses were a little bit shaded, just a little bit. So the day when I tried that chamber, I got out that chamber, and I put my glasses on, and I took them off a few different times. The salesman was like, "Hey, wait a minute." He said, "What's wrong?" I said, "I don't know. I feel like I don't need my glasses." And he was like, "Oh, you one of those?" And I was like, "One of those?" Okay, he finna try to sell me this $20,000 machine right here. But no, man, this guy was right, man. Some people get immediate relief, and that's what I did. And some people they need like 40 to 50 sessions within 30 days condensed in there. And for me, it took the first time I did it, I was clear for 6 days. I wasn't cloudy. And then he allowed me to come back the next week. I wasn't cloudy for 9 days. So then I bought one. I have one in my back room right here. Like, usually I try to do 4 days, 3 to 4 days a week in there, sometimes 5, because, like, as much as it helps me, it's really rebalanced me. When I'm not using it, like, I struggle with talking again. I can't, like, I can see the words. I can see them clearly, but I can't pronounce them, and I can't really get them out. But yeah, but that's what I do. I stick with my chamber. And so what I'm working on right now is I want to provide that same relief to everybody else. It's not something. First of all, they're expensive, so a lot of people don't have access to them. But I promise you, like, if you spend one, for me anyway, I spent 1 hour in there and it changed my life. And so I'm just really trying to pay it forward. People, like, there's some people who, like, I've referred out. I told them about it and they've tried it and they're doing great. And they always thank me. And I was like, man, don't thank me, man. Go back and you thank Joe Namath because he did this. I can't take that credit. And matter of fact, I called his team one time and I told him, I was like, tell him, thank him. I just said, thank him for me. And they was like, well, what else can he do for you? Nothing. What do you mean? Like, I'm not a selfish guy, man. This guy just kind of gave me life back. And they said, if you ever need anything, just send it in writing. And I had nothing to ask him for. But I really would like to see his notes because all of my social media I put on there and I tell everybody, I said, listen, guys, I'm one man with a chamber. When Joe Namath did it, he had a team of doctors. I don't have that. I said, I can tell you what it's doing for me personally, but I can't tell you all the medical things you should be doing with it, you know? And that might be a reason why, like, if I go a month without using it, I'll get cloudy again. So I don't have all the answers, but I'm really trying to make sure that this thing will just usually give people that immediate relief. And then you can kind of start to figure things out. But until you get to that point where you can kind of get that calmness in your life with that chamber, it's hard to figure anything out.
Okay. Wow. So that's so leading into that. So now you got, let's talk about so the GoFundMe that you got set up is and everything you got set up is this trying to, so let me back up a little bit. So medically, all this stuff, because we know how great insurance can be, being sarcastic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
being diagnosed, when you finally got diagnosed with the CTE, how many specialists do we have out there, at least that you know of, that are specialized in CTE, neurologists and stuff like that? How many are aware of at least treatment options, or how hard is it, if you are diagnosed with CTE from something, to get access to stuff like this? Is there any insurance that can cover this, or is this straight up, this has to be out of pocket if you want to go down this route, if you're trying to do take care of your body, especially with CTE?
Well, first of all, I'm going to tell you right up front, it's impossible. And let me tell you why. First of all, they don't diagnose us with CTE until death. They have to cut our brains open and look for certain things, markers in there. So you'll never get that diagnosis before that time. And for me, I've been on this journey. I filed this case in 2020, I believe, 2021. Been able to see one doctor so far. Because like before, when I owned my own companies and I was running bigger companies before my decline happened, like I had great insurance. I had really good insurance. And now, like, I have some of the worst insurance, I'll be very honest. And so, like, my primary doctor, he referred me to like 2 different neurologists. Where in California, where I'm at, they usually call you to make the appointment once the referral goes through. And then they asked me, okay, what's the issue? As soon as I mentioned the word CTE and tell them what's going on with my teammates, they both told me the same thing. Don't come here. We can't help you. You need to find a CTE specialist. Well, there's no CTE specialists. There's very few of them. If they are, I don't know who they are. I was actually seen by one of the doctors who helped some of the NFL guys, and he recently retired. I remember him giving me all the tests, and I remember failing every test he gave me because I couldn't remember anything he said to me. And that was before I found the chamber too. So it was way before that. But yeah, that's the problem. Like I really thought once I filed the case, I like some people out here know what this is. And all I gotta do is get it out here to the media and they're gonna come and save us. And I realized they're not gonna come save us. The Olympic team, I'm kind of assuming they don't really care, to be very honest. That's all I can really say, only by going by what they said to me in court. Like they were like, well, what head injuries are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like I was like, okay, well, let's follow the death trail. How many people need to die before we handle this thing? So I don't think that they really care. It's kind of like business as usual. And so in the court case, like I've only asked for one thing personally, and it really doesn't benefit me personally. I told them we have to warn the new generation before they start the sport. They have to. We have to do that. Minimum that we have to do that. I said, now, if they decide to still do the sport, that's up to them. But at least they understand what that means. See, we didn't get that chance. They tricked, like that story I told you. They didn't tell me this guy who I got in the sled with doesn't know how to drive. They never told me that his equipment, like you remember that old 1978 Pacer car had like a bubble top on it? It was like a Pacer AMC
Yeah.
Pacer.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. The Pacers.
That's what my
Yep.
first sled was shaped like. It was shaped just like that. Meanwhile, the national team got sleds that were built by Jeff Bodine, and NASCAR. So they were shaped like shark fins. You know, they are aerodynamic and look like NASCARs. So this guy wasn't going to get me down the track safe. He wasn't going to win a race. And there was not a coach out there who was going to tell me, don't get in that sled. This guy is going to hurt you. Now, the truth of it is, he never crashed me. Now I got beat up pretty bad going down the track sometime, but he never crashed me. I'm blessed to say that. But I had 7 crashes that I can remember over like a 9-year career. Like some of them were brutal, and some of them weren't so brutal. And then sometime you went down that track and it was so violent that you just was hoping that we just can just crash and get it out the way because like, ouch, man. Like, every time you see us come down that hill and we just even just touch a wall like that, it's like somebody takes a sledgehammer and hits you like on that body part, wherever was on hitting that wall. That's what it feels like. It's brutal. It's not for the faint at heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing I could say, at least for pilots, they got, jumpsuits that are designed to keep, blood in their heart. So when they're taking those G forces, heart's not going to fail them. You guys are
Yeah.
wearing, you know,
Spandex.
spandex, which I'm kind of like thinking if they really could get away with it, they could have you guys run out there in Speedos and a helmet and that would be it. And have you go if it meant cutting, a quarter of a second off of a run. So your
Well,
protection is pretty minimum.
yeah. Well, you can like I don't know. Like I should have brought one to the camera today. But you can see through our Olympic suits. They're like it's spandex. You can see right through those
Yep.
things. And so
Yep.
like there's no protection in that thing at all. There's no protection in that sled. There's no seat belts. There's no shock absorbers. There's no, it's just and I remember one time I was braking for the team 2003. I was braking for the team that won the silver medal in Salt Lake City, Todd Hayes. And we were in Cortina, Italy. And when we race World Cup, like every track is a little different, every's a little bit unique. But on the one in Cortina, there's a part on one of the straightaways, you have a lot of speed. There's like a ramp. You hit this little bump. And on the World Cup TV, they actually show what sled jumped the highest and stuff like that. So it's just a little funny thing they do. So I remember being a brakeman on that sled one time, and we got to the end. I pulled the brakes. We get out the sled. Everybody in that sled was like, "Oh my God! Like, did you feel that?" I was like, "Feel what?" I didn't feel it. I said I kind of knew what they were talking about. I remember the jump, but I was numb to that stuff already. And that was going into my second or third year. Like no track, every track that we went on, like I could take a nap in the sled. It wouldn't bother me a bit. Yeah. It didn't phase me. I like the G forces, the speed, none of that. It didn't phase me. But everybody else seemed to get rattled pretty good. So I don't know if that means that my brain was already starting to shut down because I had a really nasty crash at my first World Cup. We were in St. Moritz, Switzerland. And man, I need to send you that video so you can see that video. Or you can grab it off my YouTube channel. One man with a chamber. You can go and pop it out. Like I'm usually the brakeman. I'm usually all the way in the back. But on this day, there was another guy braking for us, a guy named Tucker. And we crashed. And we crashed violently. And wow, he was unconscious when the sled stopped. And I was beat up pretty good too. And I remember the guy sitting in front of me, I think he was unconscious because he started to come out the sled. I remember grabbing his helmet and pulling him back down and kind of holding him in there with my knees. I wouldn't let him fall out. And I remember like going back to the training. No, we were at a hotel. They put us back in the hotel. And this is where it gets bad. They told us to watch each other, not to go to sleep. Okay, so my thing is like, I got vertigo now. I can't sit up in the bed without the room spinning, so I can't watch him. And he was knocked unconscious. So is he supposed to be watching me? Like we literally could have went back to that room and died in that hotel right there, and that would have been the end of us because there wasn't any medical stuff. We didn't like out of every trip I ever took, I was never taken to a hospital after a trip, whether it was a
So
crash or
never, just no medical team to kind of be there to
no.
kind of check you guys out to make sure everything was going. That's crazy. Especially
One
you
time,
just
yeah,
think that
one
it
time
should
there
be
was
automatic for that.
there's usually EMT at the World Cup, but you got to think most of our damage is going to happen to us in practice. Where when the cameras aren't on, that's when the most damage is going to happen. But yeah, there's just no one there to. I was talking to the judge one day. I said, "Your Honor, this case is it's really more about the transparency." And I really explained it to him like this. I said, Your Honor, I can go to your family. I can go to your sons or your grandkids if you have those. I said, I can tell them to look me up. The top 10 world ranked, the U.S. national champion. I said, you guys look like great athletes, and I think you if I can train you a little bit, maybe you can be my side pushes for the next Olympics. Now, a lot of people will be like, that sounds good. But what I didn't tell your family is that I've never driven a sled before. So I'm going to take you down this track and I'm going to crash you up. I'm going to concuss you probably every day. And I'm going to do this until I quit or you quit. There's no coaches who's going to warn them, who's going to stop them. And they just going to watch the damage be done. And that's where the sport needs to change. Yeah. And that's really what I'm fighting for. I just want to save the next generation. Like, no one should have to go through what I go through. And I'm not the only one. I'm blessed. I'm still alive. Like, some of my teammates haven't made it. And I found out there's even more who attempted more suicides. There's a lot more. And I'm just here to kind of like trying to fix it before, well, I won't say before there's more damage done, because I think it's already kind of too late for a lot of people. But some of the athletes they're struggling. We're all struggling. And I have the chamber, and it's like, I don't know what they do. I don't know how they're handling themselves or living, because I'll send you this other video. Like, I made a video when I took my last trip home to look at the center I wanted to open, and like, I could barely talk. Like, I can't get words out. And so how do the normal people who dealing with this, who don't have the chamber, who don't know about the chamber, how are they coping? And I don't think that they are. I think that's why we have so many suicides. And I'm really just trying to help cut into that. And then the other part is, most of us, like, I literally read this article, Sledhead, and I thank God that the symptoms missed me. And it really diagnosed me. So most of us who have the issue, whether it's not track, but whether it's bobsled or football or hockey or soccer, they have no idea what they have. And so they're just kind of, walking through the woods in the dark. And that's what it really is. But if they can start recognizing what the signs are, like, my TikTok channel is only dedicated toward living with CTE. Like, I'm showing you the things you can do. All of the holes I stepped in, and like, I'm trying to show people, like, you don't have to step in these holes. And I'm pretty sure if you have what I have, you probably already stepped in the holes. But this is how you get out the hole that you stepped in. And so that's what I'm really trying to do. I really want to just cut back on that. And if I can get people to get in and try the chamber, if they're medically okay to be in there, it'll change their life. It really can change their life. And for me, 1 hour, man, come on, it was an hour, just 1 hour in the chamber. And I was like, oh my God, what is this place? I felt like I was on Mars, because I didn't even know I couldn't see colors anymore. I didn't know I wasn't seeing them. And man, like, I'm just really here to save lives, man, and just change some things. And if I could stop the next person from killing his partner, my God, like, that's, and his family, like, it's brutal. It's very brutal.
And I'm hoping, the few people I have listening, which, I got a few, and I'm trying to push my kids to listen. So, if I can, any way I can help bring awareness, that I want to, because losing people, friends, family, especially suicide, it's horrible. Like, I could, at least on the suicide part of it, you know, uh, I've had a few students, and I've only been teaching here 10 years, that lost their lives to suicide. You know, it's it sucks. I'm just like, they were just amazing kids, and
Yeah.
it was all different backgrounds. It wasn't just because they had a hard life. Some of these kids, they might have had a hard life, but some kids, they had a great life, and it's horrible. And, with the CTE and stuff, and for me, especially coaching, the head impacts I'm really aware of, because for me, when I was in college, because I went to Eastern Oregon University, we had I got the opportunity to I knew the head coach. I had coached his boys in youth football, and I wasn't coaching high school or anything at the time. And it was like I had like an year or two left, and the spring football was coming up, and so I was like, hey, is it okay if I hang out with you guys and get kind of help out voluntarily, so I can kind of learn at the college level what it's like to be a coach, so I can kind of get that experience? And he's like, sure, come on aboard. And one of my classes that I was in, uh, it was a football class, is all it was. It was the head coach taught it. It was just, it's an easy credit. It's a PE credit I was getting to go towards my degree. I was like, hey, I'll take this
Nice.
football class. So pretty much it was the entire football team and me. and that was so, that took this class. One of the players on the team, Dylan, he was from Montana. He's from Missoula, and he had played football a year up at Missoula, up at University of Montana, and then he had transferred to Eastern to play down there. And he was a young father, basically had a kid right out of high school or right in his, senior year. So, this 19, 20-year-old kid at college, or, I think he's 20. Anyways, already a father, had a 2-year-old. And I remember him talking about his kid. So, uh, one of our last spring practices we had was a scrimmage, and they invited the families. The families of these players would come, and I got introduced, to some of the players' families. And Dylan came up with his daughter, who was like maybe 2, and his girlfriend, and introduced me. And he's like, "Hey, this is my wife's my daughter." And I was like, "Oh, pleasure to meet you," stuff like that. And so when the scrimmage started, and my job was I had to sit with a clipboard and just write down what the plays were. So I'm sitting there writing the plays and all this stuff. During the play, he was playing defense, and uh, there was a collision. He was going to make a tackle. The running back was coming through, and when his knee came up, it caught him on the side of the head, and so he
Hmm.
went down. So he gets up and he's concussed, and we were like, "Oh yeah, he he's getting help off." The trainers were there. They took him off. They sat him down. And so, for me, for the rest of the, the mentality of, even then it's like trainers are taking care of him. Let's get back to, that. And so later on that night, I, I get my mom called me, and she had a friend. She's one of those, not my mom, but her friend, like, listens to the scanners, and picks up, what's coming on the scanners. Like, she's a little nosy, pick it up when the, cops come on, or the medical saying, "Hey, something happened." And they had mentioned something about a life flight for a football player getting taken to Boise. And so I called the OC, and I called him up, and I said, "Hey, coach, hey, I heard, is Dylan okay?" And there was something in his voice is like, "I'll call you later," because he was with the family with Dylan's, and Dylan passed away. He
Ah,
basically had trauma, passed away, and it was devastating. And I was just like, and the whole team, and just being a part of that, it was just like a cloud, like a haze, like, what the heck's going on? And I was just like, this is, this, I just met this kid's daughter, and I'm just like, oh my God, gonna lose this, losing dad. And so the whole head trauma, it's a real thing. And, and I still coach. I love football and stuff like that, but I'm very adamant about making sure that, the kids go about the right way, even though collisions happen and bad things do happen
yeah,
especially when you're playing sports like that. But the whole head out of football, I think that's been a great addition to it to help with that. But,
yeah,
you know, with the CTE and stuff like that, it's a very real thing. And the experience, my exposure to it was just obviously football, and growing up watching football, loving football. And then, then it was the early 2000s and stuff was coming out about players, things are happening with players. Player, like you're talking about, like, killed his family and then killed himself. There were suicides going on. Junior Seau, who, back when I was a kid, was like huge in football,
yeah,
and then you got people coming out, teammates saying that, hey, there's something going on here. And because NFL is so big and so well known, I think that influence kind of helped get them to change their direction, and bring awareness to the trauma that was happening. And, with bobsledding, it's not the sport it's not one of those big three. It's not basketball. It's not baseball. So I
yeah,
think that pressure kind of makes me wonder if, just because it's not this isn't, money talks, is not a money thing. It kind of makes me wonder if sometimes that's the frustrating part, is that it kind of can get swept under the rug, like you're talking about. And so it kind of
yeah.
makes me wonder if, with that. And so, I am more than happy to try to. I want to get your message out, and I'll make sure we get the GoFundMe link. I'll have you email me all your
Yeah.
information, anything you want to get out there, and I'll tag it to this show and stuff like that, so we'll get that out there and stuff like that, and then I'll try to post it on some of the social media stuff I got to
No, I
try to get your
appreciate it.
message out there for you. So I want to help you out as much as possible to try to. So dude, listen to your story is amazing, and I really appreciate you sharing it with me and with the audience and stuff like that. And man, anytime you want to come back on here, I want to be able to, you want to talk about anything. We don't have to talk about something else you love to talk about. If
Yeah.
you ever want to be a
I
part of anything, I'd love
appreciate
to
it.
have you.
I
Yeah.
really appreciate it. But this is a crazy part for me. Like, and people ask to people. Some people think I'm crazy. Like, let me tell you what. I want to open this place, right? Like, I have a lake house. It's just sitting in the middle. It's in St. Louis. It's out in the middle of nowhere. It's serene, beautiful. It was really my death house. It was there for me because I was getting lost in my own community in LA, and I needed somewhere safe for myself. And I happened to catch a great deal when COVID, when no one else can qualify to buy, and I was in good situation to do it, and so I have it, and I just really want to get the equipment, put it in that place, and then let people come and get free treatment. But then I had some people talking to me. It was like, well, you can actually create partnerships and reach more people if you do partnerships. And I was like, I never thought of that. And so my dad owns this huge building in St. Louis. He was a roofing company. He retired. The building's sitting there. I can buy it from him from pennies on the dollar. And it's so big. It's like 3 buildings in one. And so it's got 3 addresses on it. So I want to turn that place. If I can get the equipment over there, now I can probably help maybe 5, 10 people a day. It's that big of a difference. And if I'm doing, let's just say if I did it a minimum of 5 people a day for 300 days of the year, that's 1,500 people, 1,500 lives I've changed. And that's what it's really about. Because like, even for myself, like when I tried this thing and like people ask me like, I'm free, like you can charge and make a lot of money. I was like, no, not this guy. Uh-uh. I want to do it for free because like when I tried it, like the best way I'm pretty redundant about some of the things that I say. Like, just imagine you needed, like my whole journey in the beginning, I thought I was diabetic. So just what if I was right? What if I was diabetic? Now I know I need insulin, but now I can't afford it. So when I tried that chamber and it worked, I remember I came home that first week and well, first I had a headache oh man, I had a headache for like about 2 days. And I always have a headache. That's one thing about this thing with CTE. Your headache never goes away. It's either mild or it's a migraine. You got one of the two, but it's always kind of there. And so for me, like when I tried this thing and it changed so much, I felt like, how can I go to the next person and say, guess what, buddy? I got the cure you need. Or maybe it's not a cure, but I got something that's going to help you. It's going to preserve your life. It's going to change some things. But now you got to pay me some money. No, 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 no. It breaks my heart, man, because it happened to me. It's the same way. I knew that thing worked, and I didn't have $20,000 laying around because I had just bought the new house and stuff, and I won't do that to anyone else. And so for me, I feel like, let's say you come and you try it and it works. You can stay as long as you want and use as long as you need. Probably gonna be at least 30 days. If it's not the immediate, you're gonna get 30 days. I got you, no problem. You covered. My thing is, what if you're like me, where you need it and it's gonna fade out and you need it again, you know? So there's different variations of this thing. And I just don't want to put that pressure on the next person because after I knew I needed it, I placed the order for one. And really my dad stepped in and took care of it for me. And I didn't even know he was doing it. But he put that order in for me. And it's kind of like I laid down again. I was laying down to die again. I wasn't, my loved ones around me, they rallied, man. They rallied behind me. They made sure I got the machine. And now they know how to keep up with me to make sure that um, they know when I'm off. If I'm off, they're gonna be like, "Hey, you been using that machine enough?" They listen now, and that's the one thing about this CTE. It's your family ones who's going to help you, and that's who's going to save you. You're not going to do it alone. Trust me, I tried it. I was self-medicating with everything on the book, everything that the internet suggested. And I was wrong on every level. I was working with the symptoms, but I was wrong on every level of this thing. And the only thing that's sorry about that noise out there,
That's
but the
okay.
only thing that helped was the chamber. And I just want to pay it forward. Like I said, Joe Namath, he's helped preserve my life. And I'm gonna do whatever I can to preserve as many more as I can. And there's no more to it. There's no hidden agendas, and I'm not going to make some money from it. I'm donating my property into this thing. So, and I appreciate your support, because without you guys on the ground level talking about this thing, it's the media's done a really great job of trying to keep this quiet. Like I did an interview for Chapman Downs at HBO Real Sports, and we were talking about, it was really just all about the suicides and the people sick from the sport. However, I'll challenge you to go find that episode. It was scrubbed the same as that pilot article about the military pilots. It's been scrubbed from the internet. You can't find that episode about us anywhere. So somebody's doing a really good job of hiding this stuff, and it's not fair. It's just not fair.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll do my spot, if I can, even if I can hit 10 people,
Man,
sorry. So
I tell everybody, if everybody just chipped in $1, like it's not going to take much to save these people. I'm a walking testimony. I'm a walking testimony. Yeah, it doesn't take much. Yeah.
So, dude, so what we're gonna do is, we'll wrap up on this portion. One thing I do want to reiterate is that concussions in general, it's not just the sudden impacts on it people. So the whole sled head thing, that's a real thing. There's subtle ways you can experience concussions. It doesn't have to be something very violent. So I want to make sure I get that out there to let people know that take care of your body, listen to your body, listen to the signs. Family support is everything. Don't feel like you're ever alone on anything
Yeah.
that don't try to isolate yourself. Always be there with trust your family. And, that's, to me, that's the biggest thing, is always having that family support. And,
Yeah. And one thing about that is, like, the best way I can say this is, if your loved one has been participating in sports like this, or it's these other subcultures I've been realizing. That's why I want to help the veterans as well, because they're struggling as well. It's the same treatment, exactly same treatment. Some people are already treating these guys, but most people don't know about it. So I want to include the veterans, but that housewife who fell down and hit her head. I met so many of them. They have no idea. Like, it's like, oh, I have these symptoms. I was like, wow, your symptoms sound like my symptoms. Did you play sports? They were like, no. But then I let them talk long enough, and this one lady told me, she said, yeah, one time I was snowboarding with my son, and I fell back, and my arms did this, and I was like, I know
yeah,
what your problem is.
yeah.
So anytime you see them arms lock up, like,
Yeah, yeah, I've seen that happen. I've been around football long enough. I've seen when that happens, and you're like, "Oh, that ain't good." So,
yeah.
yeah.
And this is the treatment. This is it. I promise you, it's in my back room. I'm gonna make you a video later. I'm gonna send you a personal video about what I do back here.
So let's talk about that equipment just real quick. What is the name of the equipment? So if somebody does want to look into this, the company that provides it, kind of give us a little bit about the actual equipment. What is it
Well,
called? What's the name of it and everything?
there's a lot of companies that provide them, but like for me, I couldn't find one that I trusted off the internet because it wasn't like storefronts. Like, so I found one in California had a storefront. They called it Eleve Health, Eleve. And so I believe the real pronunciation is Eleve. Is it Eleve or Eleve? I see right now I'm a little bit cloudy
That's
because
fine.
I haven't been in that
No, we're
machine in
good.
a while. So yeah,
Yeah.
but it's Eleve, and it's shaped just like, I'll be crazy. The crazy part, it's shaped just like my bobsled, pretty much. So the first time I saw one, I had to get in. I was like, wait a minute, this is how I got here
Yeah.
in the first place. But like, I just go in there and I zip it up. Once it pressurizes, you have to like clear your ears. It's just like getting on an airplane. You have to clear your ears for the first couple minutes. Once you clear the ears, it gets up to pressure. I usually just take a nap. Well, when I first started, I could only take a nap. I didn't have the strength to stay awake. I set a couple alarms so I don't sleep past the 90 minutes or an hour, however long I stay in there. And that's pretty much it. And then the rest, it will just take care of itself. Man, the results, oh my goodness. It's like wow, like really? This I was like this for how long? For it's so hard to believe, man. This and to come back
I-
from that.
That's great. It's great. Glad that you found something that can help you, and I'm hoping people else that are experiencing this and bring awareness to CTE and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and be able to give you the tools, or at least bring awareness enough where we get other people involved.
Yeah, it's really simple. Like they, like years ago, I used to. I'm not sure if you're a hip hop fan or not. Jamie Foxx had a song out called "Blame It on the Alcohol" back in the
Okay,
day.
yeah, yeah, I know Jamie Foxx.
Okay, well, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Okay, wait. I used to help Jamie with a few little projects he had, and one of them was he had that song, and he needed some alcohol sponsors, and I knew Patron; they were friends of mine. So I put Patron and Nuvo. I mean, yeah, well, Nuvo was another one, but I put them into Jamie Foxx "Blame It on the Alcohol" for the video. So we had like Ron Howard and people like that, Clifton Powell. They made Ron Howard, little Opie Cunningham, look like a thug in this video, man. It was so cool. But it's on YouTube. You can go check it out.
I'll
So
check it out.
yeah, Jamie got sick about a year ago, I believe. They believe he had a stroke or something. So I knew the science of the chamber. They say if you have a stroke and it's a real bad one and you're in a wheelchair and you go through hyperbaric oxygen therapy, you might need a cane at the worst, but more than likely you're going to walk and be normal again. You'll be okay. Or if you have to use a cane after a stroke, they put you in there, you're definitely going to be okay to walk again on your own. And so when Jamie got sick, man, I called his camp. And the first thing I said to him, I said, guys, please don't tell me what's wrong with Jamie. I don't want to be responsible for the leak. Don, you're not going to look at me and be like, hey, no, I don't want to know. I said, however, if they said if he had a stroke, please check this information out. And I told him about the chamber in my chamber. I was like, hey, let them know I'll bring my chamber to him, but I'm sure you can get better chambers than mine. They can get the ones they use in the hospitals. And I'm not sure if he used them or not, but that's what the science says. And I promise you, I was in dementia, man. So when I first started this, like I couldn't read, couldn't write, couldn't do math anymore. And so, man, if we have Asian parents who going through that stuff that I was going through, man, I really think this might be the answer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for I can tell you, in my experience, I lost my mom this last uh this last winter. She was going through dementia, and y- having that technology and that it makes me really wonder if there would have been ways that to help her, because watching anybody go through Alzheimer's or any kind of brain deterioration,
Yeah.
it sucks. With my mom, it was, you know, the last 3 or 4 years, she was never herself. I mean, my mom was always called me, and, we talked to each other. She was, always going to her grandkids' sporting events. She did all this stuff. And the
Yeah.
last 3 years, I mean, it really just nosedived, and it became it just deteriorated to the point where she passed. But
Yeah.
you always wonder, I think when you lose a parent or a grandparent or whoever that's going through something, and it doesn't matter what it is, but like for my case, it was dementia. You're like, what else could have been done? Was there something else out there? It always makes me wonder with uh, the chamber you're talking about, if could that have been something that might have at least extended her life, or done something
Yeah.
for us. So
Well,
yeah,
the studies say I'm right. I've never seen it done myself, but the studies that I've read said that I'm correct. But the truth is, I'm a walking testament. That's how I know I'm right.
and
Like,
that's and
man,
that's
I
that's
couldn't
the
read
number
or
one
write
thing
or
right
math.
there,
Yeah, I
right?
couldn't read or do math anymore, man. I was
Yeah,
literally praying for death, man. I'm telling you, I was so bad off. Like, I hate to even say this on the camera, but like, I had a friend. Well, somebody was older than me when I was probably about 11 or 12. He committed suicide, and when that happened, I saw how it affected his family. And so when I got to the point of when I knew why my teammates committed suicide, like I wanted to go to every night, man. I was praying for death. Like, Lord, God, I can't have another day like today. Please, can you? It's my time. If I do it myself, it's going to hurt my family. If you do it, it won't. But God had other plans for me. He was like, I got something for you. And that was really the difference. And mine was so bad. Like, how do you? I was wishing that I could catch pancreatic cancer so they can just come and get me quick. And like I was just like, man, I hate to go there with that kind of stuff, but it's a reality. And something you just said, you was like, your mom wasn't herself, right?
Right.
Like every person who you
Yeah.
see who has CTE, who's doing something weird, we all say the same thing. They're not being themselves. And I really think that this thing is, I think it's probably one of the answers. Yeah.
Well,
And the studies,
you know,
people told me I'm correct, but I I've never
it's just
seen
a
a
matter.
person, yeah, other than myself.
Yeah. And you being here, you know, and you spreading your message is just shows the importance of you being around. And, I'm sure your family appreciates you and everything else. And, everybody has a purpose and I think you found it. And man, I hope the best for you and what you're trying to do. Again, I appreciate everything that you did tonight, taking the time to come and listen so I can listen to you and you can spread your message.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. It
Yeah.
means the world to
So,
me.
and yeah, anytime, man. I want to, I want to help people, and to me, this is a platform that you can do that. So, if I can get your message out there for you, I want to be able to do it. Okay, I have something I do always at the end of my shows, and it's a little change, so a little more lighthearted,
I
So,
hope so, man. Hope so, man.
so,
For
okay, you
trying
ready?
for me.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
I always do I call unusual mascots. So I go around and I research unusual mascot names, something that's unique to high schools. That's not the common tigers, panthers, lions, whatever. So I go around and some of the ones I've done in the past, like up here in Idaho, it's called Orofino, Idaho, and their mascot's the Maniacs, and it's based off of there's a psych hospital that's there in town, and so they decided to call themselves the Maniacs. So and they actually their gear, and so it shows this kind of caveman, I don't know, kind of crazy looking guy, but there's like a buddy of mine, he's got somebody he knows over there in Orofino, and they sell gear like across the country. So you have the Orofino Maniacs. I've done the Yuma Criminals. It's based off of Yuma. They were when they were a territory, that's like where the prison was, and I guess like the suit, the gosh, wrestling warm ups, they're the black and white stripes. So for because of their criminals. And I've done some. There's like one place, the town's called Polka, and their mascot's the dots. So it's the polka dots. And where I grew up there in Oregon, we got some pretty crazy ones too. In my conference when I was going to school, Bend, Oregon, Bend High School is the Lava Bears. And so, and the
Wow.
story behind the Lava Bears was they found a bear. This legend is back in the 20s or 30s or something. They found a bear that was like small sized. And so in around Bend, there's a lot of volcano activity, a lot of volcanic rock and stuff. And so somebody had found this bear down there, and it's like a miniature bear is what it would look like. And supposedly there was this species of bears around there. And I think later on they found out, like biologists find out that it was probably just like a malnutrition bear. But I guess they have it stuffed and it's at some museum or something like that somewhere in Oregon. I'm not sure where it's at, but so you have the
Wow.
lava bears. So I'm taking you down to Orange County. So kind of down there in Los Angeles in your area. So Tungsten High School. I don't know if you ever heard of Tungsten.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds familiar.
Okay. So Tungsten's down in Orange County, and they're known as the Tillers. So it's based off of their agriculture roots. So they were a bunch of orange groves around the area, farm businesses that literally surround it. And so they took on the mascot, the Tillers. So the school size, about 1,627. They notable alumni that's coming out of here, Mark Grace. So for baseball, Mark Grace, Sean Green, Heath Bell. For football, Sam Baker, Chris Chester, Frosty Rucker, Bo Bell, Matt McCoy. A couple Olympians have come out of here. There was an Olympian from 2008 that took the silver in the 100-meter butterfly. Man, I don't get to pronounce this right. Melrod Kavik. I think that's how you pronounce the name. I probably butchered the heck out of it. But yeah, so our unique mascot of the week is coming from Tunston, and it is the Tillers. So yeah. So hey, man, again, I want
off like with
no,
certain
you're
things.
good.
So
Yeah,
when somebody strike up something good, like you reminded me of one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my whole life. I was at when I was in college at Weber, I went to, it was a young lady I was going out with. She took me to a homecoming game for her whole high school, right? And I remember it was a caveman. It was this big old giant caveman with these stuffed muscles. It was huge. It was like, and then it was it was a puma, like a mountain lion. And so during the halftime thing, the puma and this caveman, I mean, no, not the caveman, the puma and this, yeah, it was a caveman. It was a big caveman. So they started pushing each other, right? Then they started brawling. I mean, these two mascots were going at it. And then when the puma fell down and the head fell off, it was a girl in there. So this big caveman was whooping on this little puma girl, man. And it was so disturbing. Like, it was like the whole
oh,
crowd,
man.
oh,
So funny story. There was something that happened very similar. So back where I grew up in Eastern Oregon, the town is a little town called Embler, and they're the Panthers. And they were at this other school. I want to say it might have been Vale or something, and they were the Vikings or something. So both mascots had the big head thing on, right? And
yeah,
so what happened was one of the mascots, I want to say the Viking mascot, came over to the visitor's side and was kind of like fake putting up their dukes, like, hey, let's kind of have a little show, put on a little show.
yeah,
So the Embler Panther was somebody I worked with, his daughter, and and the other guy was an actual dude, I guess, of some kid, some boy in there, and they didn't know who each other were, and it kind of got out of hand, and it got a little more aggressive than they thought it should, and I guess like some parents got upset. It was the same thing, here's this little tiny girl,
yeah,
she was in high school, but she's like maybe 5 foot 5'1", very very tall, and this high school boys out there pounding on, not knowing that this is happening, and the same thing. Help the hat comes off, and the parents are upset. It's like, oh, you're beating up on a girl, and it's just
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, it was similar crazy story, but this one happened in Oregon. So yeah,
Wow, that's the thing. I've been laughing. This was in 91, maybe. I've been laughing at this thing since 1991. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen at a football game in my life. It was so creepy when that head popped off and there was a girl in there. I was like, whoa, how do you live that one down?
nice,
Man, I appreciate your time today, and thank you.
Gordon. All right.